Welcome to episode 219, Fear Series, How to Navigate Fear of Failure. Welcome to the Be That 1% podcast. I'm your host, James Silvis, mindset specialist and performance coach. And here on the show, I'm going to challenge you to think deeper, commit to greatness, and develop a stronger mindset. You'll hear stories from those who are living life on their terms, and you'll receive strategies that will help you level up. So the question is, are you ready to be your own 1%? Let's get started. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Be That 1% podcast. Today, we are continuing our fear series. Last week, if you remember, we talked about the number one fear that I see plague most leaders, high achievers, goal-oriented individuals, and that was the fear of rejection. How that manifests, what you think, how you act, and some journal prompts / self-awareness questions to help you better navigate those types of experiences in the future. So if you did not listen to that last week, highly suggest you go checking that out. Also, if you did listen, you'll remember that in the show notes is a link for you to take a quiz that I created regarding the 4 fears, which we'll be talking about over this month, March here. And for you to figure out what fear you have the most intimate relationship with. Why is that important? If you have the self-awareness around where you get bottlenecked, where you get your energy drained, and where you're not showing up to play full out as a leader, as a husband, as a wife, as a teacher, fill in the blank, then that would be helpful to know. Plus, as you increase your awareness, you increase your social awareness. You get better at picking up this pattern of thinking, of behaving. So now your level of service increases because you're serving yourself first. You're saying, wow, I am afraid of this. I didn't realize that this was fear. I didn't realize how much this has been preventing me from leveling up, from learning more about myself. And so now that I know this, I have some action steps that I can take to remedy that. And when I do that and it works, now I have a recipe or a system to share with somebody else so that they can get similar results. That's how your impact creates more impact. That's how you become the pebble that gets dropped into the water and has that ripple effect, right? So that's the responsibility we choose to accept when we decide to be a leader in whatever form that is. You could be a leader of your family. You could be a leader of your department at work. You could be a leader of your community. Leader comes in many different forms. Really, it's a responsibility. It's a choice to do what most don't. It is a decision to be a trailblazer, someone who goes first, someone who doesn't sit back and wait until it's safe, because what is safe? Safe is operating under the illusion that we can control our situation, but the only thing we can control is how we perceive what is happening. People think they're safe in companies, and then all of a sudden they do a big layoff, and now they're not safe anymore. So the only true safety is cultivating inner resilience, and the only way to do that is to understand yourself and where you come off center, and learning strategies to recenter. And part of that is having the awareness. You can't change what you don't know. And you can't get better at something you don't know you're not good at, right? So here we are, fear number 2. This is a big one. I mean, these 4 are all big, but this one is the fear of failure. The fear of failure. And according to all of my research, my personal experiences, and again, my work with my clients in many different industries, many different age groups, backgrounds, you name it, fear of failure comes down to this persistent anxiety about failing to measure up to the expectations set by you, yourself, for yourself, or others. So you fail, you're not going to meet the expectations of yourself or others, right? That is fear of failure in a nutshell. So let's talk about what that means and what type of thinking you start operating in and how that kind of manifests in both thought and in action. And if we could boil fear of failure down really to its essence, it's I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And how we can think about that is we can avoid new things or challenging projects because of painful mistakes that we've made in the past. Moments where we, quote unquote, weren't enough, where we attempted something and it didn't go our way and we got embarrassed, or people slapped labels on us that then we kept repeating in our minds about who we are and what we're capable of. And that story grew legs, and now it's just an identity. It's someone we are. It's something we are, that we didn't, quote unquote, fail at the task. We are failures. We are failures because we failed at the task. And so someone who is attached to fear of failure is not able to separate the task, the thing that did or did not go the way that you wanted, from the person who did it, which is you, right? Because there is a difference between James and what James does in a situation. Like in a work situation, if I make a mistake and I do something wrong, there's a lot of factors there. Maybe I didn't have the training. Maybe I didn't think about it in a certain way and it didn't go according to plan. That does not mean I am a failure. That does not mean I am not good enough. It means that it didn't work. So I have to maneuver a new way of thinking. I have to try something different to get a different result. But if I attack myself for that, now I create an anxiety to never repeat that again, which to some could say that's really good because we learned the pain of doing something wrong. Yes, I agree with that. Taken too far becomes crippling, and now you don't do anything new, which means you can't innovate, make your service better. You're not able to progress because you're so deathly afraid of making a mistake that if you are growing, it's at such a minute level that even other people are passing you up, that you're not leveraging all that you are in that moment to maximize and squeeze as much as you can out of an experience, that you're going to be in your head analyzing everything, which won't allow you to be present to actually do your best work. Operating in fear of failure can also cause procrastination. I don't want to fail, so let me put it off. And I keep thinking and overthinking, and oh man, I know I need to do it, but I don't know where to start. I don't want to do it wrong, and then it just keeps getting pushed off. I've felt myself here many times, creating a course, creating a presentation. And I've had to catch myself numerous times. Okay, failure is, we have to let's look at that. Let's change the meaning. Let's look at this differently so that you're not stuck on that fact. And instead you're you're focusing on the impact, on the service, on the individual that you're going to be helping. Take you out of it. And I have to literally coach myself in these situations. Someone who is operating in fear of failure uses negative self-talk. Specifically, I'll never be good enough. Good enough for her, him, that position, this opportunity. I'm not smart enough. I'm not successful enough. I don't have enough money. You keep replaying these same past failures, or you keep repeating these stories that someone may have told you, whether it's a parent or a past relationship, a past lover, a teacher, a friend. Someone said something to you at a moment where you were vulnerable, emotional, or something wasn't going right, and you latched on to that language. And it isn't until you start rewording that, rewiring that you can actually choose different and do different. Fear of failure can cause you to try things or do things that you know you could finish perfectly and successfully, quote unquote, perfectly and successfully, which means you're going to live a predominantly safe-centered life. And safety, comfort zone is not bad per se. What makes it bad is when you stay there. Because when you grow, growth is very uncomfortable. I picture, the old classic kind of like, maybe outplayed cocoon butterfly thing, right? Like it's painful to change, which is why most people don't. Growth is change. So it's going to hurt it to some degree. And maybe people have different pain levels and they're able to reframe it in their mind and think differently about the process, but it is uncomfortable. And so it's through that discomfort, learning how to love that, knowing that it's better for you and it's better for other people. But when we go through that, we have we have to get acclimated to the growth that we just had. And so one could look at that as comfort. You're in the comfort zone right now. Well, yeah, I just grew to X level, and now I need to figure out what this level is. And then once you do, then it's time to up level again. That is okay in my book, because it's like working out. You have these new breakthroughs that you have physically, and then you kind of plateau a little bit. And maybe plateau is not even the right word, but there's this leveling out until you innovate and do something different. And there's this spike of new strength or new muscles that are starting to emerge, which gives you flexibility and strength that you didn't have in certain parts of your body, which increase the overall lifting that you're doing, right? And same thing with skill building. Like you have these skills up into a point, and then you kind of reach this leveling off, and then you got to go deeper, or you have to refine, or you got to think about something in a different way, and then that leads to another spike. That's okay. What I'm talking about is the staying in your comfort zone for far too long. And you even know that you need to get out of it, but you're scared to because you don't want to make another mistake. And you don't want people to think about you in a certain way. So you stay there, knowing that you should be doing something, but you're not. People who live in fear of failure also tell people, if they're tasked with something, they'll tell people beforehand why they may not be at 100% when they go and do this task, right? Hey, I need you to get this thing done by the end of the week. Oh, yeah, I'll definitely do my best. I'm dealing with this right now. I got this. I got that. Like they try and bring the expectation of the person who assigned that task. They try and bring their expectation down so that they can minimize the pressure and minimize the potentiality for failure. Because if that person's not expecting a lot out of you, then if you don't meet that expectation, it's not as bad as if the expectation is higher and then you don't hit it, right? So we're trying to buy ourselves time and perception to get out of this potential failure. It's crazy what our minds can do. Like we are justifying machines, and we'll find a reason for anything. And lastly, fear of failure results in constantly seeking and needing permission and reassurance from others because you want to meet those expectations. So you don't want to do anything wrong. So I'm not going to go and take a risk on something without checking with someone first. Or I'm not going to, or if I do make a choice, I want to make sure that I did the right choice. So I'm going to, hey, what do you think about this? Did I do this right? Did I get this right? And, that's fine if you're learning at an early stage, but one, not everyone's going to be available for that. Two, that's unfair for you to put that burden on somebody else to make you feel a certain way when you should be able to cultivate that and give it to yourself. That's the definition of independence. And then lastly, when you learn to sharpen those things up, then now you can hold that frequency. You can hold that standard for everyone else that interacts with you. And again, that's the beauty of doing this work. This is called inner work. This is leadership work that you guys are listening to and doing right now. So I applaud you for being here and for being open to receive this, and for you to start asking questions to yourself as where in my life is this true? And it may be levels of truth, right? 10 out of 10 is like, oh my gosh, that is me. I always talk to myself like that. I'm constantly procrastinating. Oh yeah, I live in my comfort zone every day, all day. Or it might be like, I live in my comfort zone in this area of my life. Maybe not in other areas, but in this area. So that's something I need to double click on and look at so that I'm not bringing myself down when I don't have to, right? So that's the beauty of really asking these types of questions and understanding that some things may resonate and some things don't, right? The Bruce Lee quote is, take what's useful, discard what's not, and add your own flair to things. I'm sharing what has worked for me, what has helped my clients, and what I know to be helpful information to help someone live life on their terms. You have your life, your own situation. I don't know what that is. All I can do is present frameworks that help you think better about things, as opposed to me giving you a formula that is applicable for one person but not for everybody, and you try it and it doesn't work. That's what I think there's a big problem with thinking that one strategy is going to be a one-size-fits-all thing, and people are just different. And I think the most effective leaders recognize that, and they give frameworks rather than formulas. When in a leadership context, in a peer-to-peer conversational teaching, person-to-person interaction, frameworks are more helpful, because then the person can put their own flair on that framework and make their own strategy from the ingredients. Here's how to make cookies. I won't tell you what cookies to make. That's up to you. But here are the natural ingredients. Have fun with it, right? Formula versus framework. Huge shift that I've had to go through in the last 2-3 years. Okay, so now that we've talked about what fear of failure is, let's talk about some homework items or some action items that you can do leaving this conversation. So first thing, I think, in order to minimize the overwhelming pressure you may be putting on yourself because of the expectations you have of yourself or others that you think others have on you, is to chunk down your tasks, your to-do items, into smaller, manageable, I won't say easy wins, but wins that are challenging, but not life-threatening. Okay. And oftentimes when we think 6, 7, 10 steps ahead, we're too far in the future. We're compounding the moment by future moments, which makes time feel faster, which feels like the added pressure that you're feeling, or it causes the added pressure that you're feeling, rather than saying, what small effective thing can I do right now that will move the business forward? Oh, it might be call this person. I'm going to call that person. It might be create a system for this thing in the business. Create that system. Small, challenging, but not too challenging. And by doing that, it creates momentum in the right direction, right? That's the first thing. Second thing I think you got to get clear on with this fear is, how do you define failure? What is failure? Is failure not getting it right and then therefore you are not enough? Because that's how I think most people think about it. Is failure feedback and learning? Man, I didn't want it to fail, but okay, it didn't work out. So what went wrong? How can we change this? How can we fix this? How can we refine this? So how do you define it? And what is and if it's not a helpful definition, what's the definition that's going to help you control the dialogue in your mind so that you don't attach yourself to the failure, as opposed to looking at all the components that weren't a fit that resulted in it not working out and then changing those aspects. Okay, so and then third piece of the kind of homework I would say would be that it's not really something you have to do, more so a shift that you'll have to make. But I think those who are able to quote unquote fail time and time again and not lose steam are the individuals who value growth more than failure. They understand that confidence, which is something that they may want, comes from failure. That conviction comes from failure. That success cannot happen without failure. And because they understand that, they don't take those quote-unquote failures personal. They work with them and they understand that they're important and that they didn't want it to fail, but it did. And so now what can we do about it? They don't spend time creating stories in their head about things that aren't relevant and how they're such bad people. And then that goes into how they were raised. And then that goes into looking at other people who are successful and then having bitterness and resentfulness towards them. And then it just kind of just gets out of control. Bring it back. Grow. This is a growth opportunity. This is a chance for you to look deep down inside yourself and say, okay, there's some changes that need to be made here. Let's make them. That's it. All right. This is fear of failure. This is another opportunity for you to learn more about you and about those that you interact with. So take the time to answer these questions. Listen to this again if you feel you need to. Share this with someone that you feel is struggling with this fear, and let them know that feeling fear is not weakness. Feeling fear is normal. What's not normal, what shouldn't be normal is that we let fear control us. It's fine to feel the fear, extract the knowledge from the fear, and then move forward with what we intended to do. Use the fear as a heightened level of sense that allows you to be more alert in certain situations. And again, with higher level of alertness, what do we get? More presence. More presence, my opinion, better performance. So there's a certain level of arousal that fear can cause when managed properly that actually brings us to a very effective state of quote unquote performance. So fear is good. Fear is a sign of intelligence. So don't judge yourself for it, and let's not let it control us. All right. Much love, everybody. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the Be That 1% community. Thank you for being a part of this. And I appreciate you guys being here. I really look forward to sharing these concepts, these frameworks with you. So much love. Until next time, talk soon.